How to Start Reading the Bible, a beginner's guide to unlocking sacred wisdom. What if the book you feared, misunderstood, or ignored was never meant to be just read, but decoded? What if within its strange stories and ancient names lies a hidden technology of the soul? Encrypted messages meant not for the masses, but for those ready to see. The Bible is not just a religious text. It is a labyrinth of symbols, a cosmic riddle, a multi-layered map of the human psyche and divine architecture. But to access it, you must begin as the ancients did, not with blind belief, but with awakened perception. Pause. Music shifts to a deeper, slower rhythm. In this video, I will show you how to start reading the Bible, not as a beginner in faith, but as an initiate into sacred knowledge. Most people approach the Bible the way one might approach a museum artifact, dusty, revered, but disconnected from life. They see it as a rule book, a historical relic, or worse, a tool of control. But what if I told you that's only the outer shell? The Bible is not a single book. It is a library. 66 books, written over 1,500 years by poets, mystics, prophets, rebels, and sages. It spans empires and deserts, temples and prisons. But more importantly, it was written in layers. In ancient rabbinic tradition, these layers were called pardes, an acronym. Tashat, the simple surface meaning. Remez, the hinted or allegorical meaning. Derash, the interpretive or metaphorical. Sod, the secret, mystical layer. Most readers stop at the first level, the literal, but the initiates, they seek the sod. Even Jesus, called rabbi more than any other title, spoke in parables, stories that veiled deeper truths. Why? Because some knowledge must be earned through seeking. As the Gospel of Thomas, a non-canonical but ancient Christian text, declares, "Let him who seeks continue seeking until he finds. When he finds, he will become troubled. When he becomes troubled, he will be astonished." The Bible is not just about God. It is a mirror that reveals your inner terrain. Eden, Exodus, Revelation, these are not only historical events. They are psychological and spiritual states encoded in story form. It is the ultimate spiritual technology, hidden in plain sight. But to unlock its power, you must read it as an initiate, not a tourist. Choosing a Bible translation is not a casual decision. It is like selecting a lens through which you will gaze upon cosmic mysteries. The wrong lens can distort. The right one can illuminate. The original texts of the Bible were not written in English. The Old Testament, or Hebrew Bible, was primarily written in Hebrew, with some sections in Aramaic. The New Testament was written in Koine Greek, a language rich with nuance, layered meaning, and sacred metaphor. When you read an English translation, you are not reading the Bible itself, but an interpretation of the Bible. And interpretations vary wildly. Let's look at a few key translations. The King James Version, KJV, published in 1611 under Royal Commission. The King James Bible is a masterpiece of poetic resonance. Its language is majestic, mystical, and often cryptic. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Genesis 1:1, KJV. Yet while beautiful, it reflects the theology and worldview of 17th century Anglicanism. It hides certain nuances, particularly in Hebrew cosmology and esoteric symbolism. The New International Version, NIV, popular in evangelical circles, The NIV simplifies and modernizes the text, but in doing so, it sometimes strips the mystery away. It is useful for narrative clarity, but not always for spiritual depth. The New Revised Standard Version, NRSV, favored by scholars, mystics, and theologians alike. It is both accurate and balanced, preserving the original flow of the text while respecting ancient idioms and ambiguities. The Interlinear Bible, Hebrew, Greek with English. Now we approach the Sacred Forge. The Interlinear shows the original Hebrew or Greek side by side with English. It is not easy reading, but for the initiate, it is a gateway to the original vibration of the word. If you seek to understand hidden meanings, numerology, root words, divine names, this is your key. For the mystic, the Tree of Life version, TLV, rooted in Messianic Judaism. The Tree of Life version restores Hebrew names and perspectives to the biblical text. It brings a richness and a cultural authenticity often lost in Western translations. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim v'ta'aretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1:1, TLV. Advice for the seeker. Start with the NRSV or TLV for depth and balance. Keep a KJV nearby for poetic resonance and cross-comparison. Use an interlinear when you're ready to go beneath the surface. Consult Strong's Concordance, a legendary tool authored by James Strong in the 19th century, to explore the original Hebrew and Greek words behind every verse. The word is not bound to ink and page. It is a vibration, a frequency, hidden behind layers of language. Choose your guide wisely. How to approach the Bible as a spiritual text, not just a religious one. To read the Bible as a religious text is to see the surface of the ocean, the crashing waves, the rituals, the rules. But to read the Bible as a spiritual text is to dive beneath the surface, where the deeper currents flow, silent, powerful, eternal. Religion often says, "Believe this." Spirituality asks, "What is this trying to awaken in me?" When you open the Bible as a seeker, not just a believer, you become like Moses before the burning bush, barefoot, humbled, trembling before a living mystery. Let the text read you. The Bible is not just a book you read, it's a book that reads you. When approached correctly, it becomes a mirror. Its stories, its symbols, its characters, they are archetypes, reflecting your own inner terrain. Adam is not just the first man, he is the unawakened consciousness. Eve is not merely the first woman, she is intuition, the pull toward experience. The serpent is not evil, it is the catalytic force that shatters innocence and initiates evolution. The Garden of Eden is not just a lost paradise. It is the inner temple, the divine state we were never expelled from, but rather forgot how to access. This interpretive lens echoes the teachings of mystics and esoteric scholars throughout history. Figures like Philo of Alexandria, a Hellenistic Jewish philosopher who taught that Scripture was full of allegory and cosmic symbolism. Origen of Alexandria, an early Christian theologian who believed the Bible had literal, moral, and mystical meanings. Meister Eckhart, a Christian mystic who saw Scripture as the way the soul speaks to itself, in symbols and silence. Practical technique, Lectio Divina, sacred reading. To begin this way of reading, adopt the ancient monastic method known as Lectio Divina, Latin for divine reading. It is not study, it is communion. Step 1. Lectio. Read slowly. Let the words wash over you. Choose a short passage. Do not rush. Step 2. Meditatio. Meditate on what stands out. A word, a phrase, an image. Hold it in the mind. Step 3. Oratio. Speak to the divine about what you are sensing. Ask, listen, commune. Step 4. Contemplatio. Let go of thought. Sink into silence. Allow the soul to absorb the mystery. Do this with Genesis. Do this with the Psalms. Do this with the Sermon on the Mount. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. This is not just advice. It is an initiation ritual in a single sentence. To read the Bible spiritually is to enter an unfolding mystery school, one where the divine hides in plain sight, and only the eyes of the awakened can see it. Where to begin reading? Best books for initiates. The Bible is not a novel. It does not move in a straight line. Beginning with Genesis 1 and reading straight through to Revelation may seem logical, but it's often a trap for the seeker. Many start here and never finish. They become lost in genealogies, ancient laws, and cultural contexts that cloud the mystical path. The initiate does not walk blindly. They follow the threads of fire, the books that burn with spiritual power, psychological truth, and esoteric mystery. Start here. The Gospel of John. If the Bible were a temple, the Gospel of John would be the inner sanctuary. Unlike the other Gospels, called the Synoptics, John begins not with history, but with cosmic metaphysics. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John 1:1. This is not biography. This is Genesis in a higher octave. Here, Christ is not merely a man, but the Logos, the primordial divine pattern from which all reality emerges. This is where mystics dwell. Read John slowly, with Lectio Divina. Let it speak in riddles. Let it unravel you. Next, the Book of Psalms. The Psalms are a collection of sacred songs and invocations, raw, emotional, alchemical. They contain every stage of the spiritual journey: despair, ecstasy, longing, repentance, illumination. When you read the Psalms, you are not just reading poetry. You are aligning your soul with the frequency of spiritual combustion. Monastics have recited them daily for centuries. Initiates chant them, not to inform the mind, but to ignite the heart. Then, Genesis. Read mystically. Return now to Genesis, but read it not as history, but as symbolic cosmology. The 6 days of creation are not time frames, but stages of consciousness awakening. The tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil are spiritual polarities within the human psyche. The fall is not a punishment, but the beginning of conscious evolution. Mystical readers like Kabbalists, Gnostic Christians, and Jungian psychologists see in Genesis a psychological blueprint of the soul's descent into matter and its longing to return. Optional but powerful, Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. From the wisdom tradition of King Solomon, both Proverbs and Ecclesiastes are like oracular teachings from a sage who has seen through the illusion of the world. Proverbs is practical, spiritual wisdom disguised as common sense. Ecclesiastes is existential, like a Zen koan echoing across the desert. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Ecclesiastes 1:2. It's not nihilism, it's a sacred warning. Do not be fooled by the outer world. Seek the eternal. Suggested reading path, initiate's order. Gospel of John, to enter the higher logos. Psalms, to awaken the soul's flame. Genesis, to map the inner cosmology. Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, for grounded spiritual wisdom. Matthew 5-7, Sermon on the Mount, to encounter the ethics of the awakened soul. Revelation, optional, when ready to face the mystery of endings and rebirths. The Bible is a cathedral of fire. Enter where the flames are hottest for you. You don't need to understand everything. You only need to begin where the soul is stirred. Knock, and the door will be open to you. Matthew 7:7. To the uninitiated, the Bible is a book of stories. To the trained eye, it is a coded manuscript, encrypted in metaphor, number, and archetype. The Bible was never meant to be understood only at the surface. Like an ancient temple, it was constructed in layers, outer courts for the many, inner sanctums for the few. Let us walk, briefly, through the gates of these inner teachings. Bull, Hebrew letters as living energies, is not a mere alphabet. Each letter is a symbolic force, a vibrational key. In Kabbalistic tradition, the universe itself was spoken into being through these letters. Aleph represents unity, silence, the breath before creation. Bet is the first letter of the Bible, Bereshit, and symbolizes duality, the house, the beginning of form. So when you read, remember, behind the English word is a Hebrew seed, a spiritual code pulsing with unseen energy. Use tools like Strong's Concordance or the Zohar to trace words back to their root, and you'll find entire hidden dimensions. Numbers and sacred geometry. The Bible is a text of divine mathematics. 7. The number of divine completion. 7 days of creation, 7 seals, 7 spirits. 12. Governmental perfection. 12 tribes, 12 apostles, 12 gates. 40. A number of purification and transformation. 40 days in the wilderness, 40 years in the desert. These numbers are not arbitrary. They are part of a sacred geometry that reflects the pattern of the cosmos and the soul. When you see these numbers, pause. Ask, what stage of transformation is this pointing to? What inner cycle is being revealed? Symbols of power and mystery. The Bible is overflowing with symbols. Each is a doorway. The serpent, a dual symbol. To some, the deceiver. To others, like Moses in the desert, the healer. In esoteric traditions, the serpent is Kundalini, the coiled energy of awakening. The tree, always a bridge between worlds. The tree of life represents divine structure, the Sephirot of Kabbalah. The tree of knowledge introduces polarity, duality, and conscious choice. The mountain, a place of divine encounter. Moses ascends Sinai. Jesus delivers the Sermon on the Mount. Symbolically, it is the ascent of consciousness to the divine mind. The wilderness, not just a location, but a liminal space. The place where the ego dies and the soul hears the still, small voice. Names as portals. Biblical names carry encoded meanings. They are not chosen randomly. Adam, Adam, from Adamah, meaning earth. He is the earth-born, the ground of consciousness. Eve, Hawa, related to Chai, meaning life. She is the life force, the awakener. Israel, meaning one who wrestles with God. This is not just a nation, it is a state of being. Whenever you read a name, pause. Decode it. What does it tell you about the role that soul is playing in the divine drama? Prophetic dreams and visionary codes. The Bible is filled with dreams and visions, often surreal, mystical, or terrifying. Jacob's ladder, ascending and descending. Daniel's beasts, each representing empires and inner powers. John's revelation, a cosmic unveiling of the soul's final initiation. These are not hallucinations. They are inner visions of archetypal transformation, encoded in the symbolic language of the spirit. Esoteric authors such as Madame Blavatsky, Manly P. Hall, and Valentine Tomberg, author of Meditations on the Tarot, speak of the Bible as a living alchemical text, veiled in symbols that only awaken as you yourself awaken. The letter kills, but the spirit gives life. 2 Corinthians 3:6. The surface of the Bible is the veil, but beneath it lies a map of your spiritual DNA, your past, your future, your inner cosmos. Learn to see with the eye behind the eye. Shall we move on to the final section? Section 6, Daily Practices to Deepen Your Spiritual Reading of the Bible. Daily Practices to Deepen Your Spiritual Reading of the Bible. The sacred is not unlocked through information alone. The mysteries of the Bible do not yield to the curious, but to the devout seeker, one who is willing to meet the text daily, not as a book, but as a spiritual entity. Here are 5 daily practices, not for religious routine, but for initiatory transformation. 1. Create a sacred space. Before you open the Bible, you must prepare the temple, and that temple is both your outer space and your inner state. Choose a quiet place, light a candle, burn a little incense or oil, frankincense, myrrh, or cedar. This is not superstition, it's ritual technology. Scent and light engage the subconscious and signal the soul that something sacred is about to occur. Keep a journal beside you, not just for notes, but for dialogue with the divine. The Bible is not just a book, it is an altar. Approach it as such. Begin with silence and breath. Do not rush into the words. Close your eyes. Take 7 deep breaths, symbolic of the 7 days of creation. On each exhale, release tension. On each inhale, invite light. Then say, either aloud or within, "Open my eyes, that I may behold wondrous things out of your law." Psalm 119:18. This short invocation transforms your mind from analysis to reception. 3. Read small. Go deep. Choose one passage, not a chapter, not a book, just a few verses. This is not a race, it is alchemy. As the mystics teach, one drop of sacred oil can perfume an entire room. So too, one verse can transform your consciousness if you drink it fully. Read it aloud, slowly. Let the rhythm and sound resonate in your body. Then read it again, inwardly, as if the words are being written on the walls of your heart. 4. Dialogue with the text. Write what arises. What image? What phrase struck you? What emotion? What resistance? Then ask, what is this passage saying about me? Where is this showing up in my life? Is there a wound here? A whisper? A command? If the Bible is the word, then what you hear in your heart is the echo. Trust that echo. 5. Close with stillness and offering. After you've read, pause again in silence. Allow the energy of the passage to settle in your being, not just as an idea, but as presence. Then offer something back, a word of gratitude, a prayer, an intention for the day. This seals the practice, not as study, but as communion. Optional practices for the serious seeker. Read with the moon cycles. The ancients timed their prayers and fasts with lunar rhythms. Try reading the Psalms at each full moon or meditating on Genesis during the new moon. Integrate sacred texts. Read the Bible alongside texts like the Gospel of Thomas, the Zohar, or Meditations on the Tarot by Valentine Tomberg. Let them speak to each other. Fast from noise. 1 day a week, disconnect from media, digital chatter, and outer noise. Let the word be your only sound. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. Matthew 4:4. The true bread is spiritual, and the Bible, when approached with reverence and wisdom, becomes a daily feast. Final thought. The Bible is not only a book to be read. It is a labyrinth to walk, a flame to hold, a voice that speaks only in silence. When you come to it not as a scholar, nor a skeptic, nor a preacher, but as a soul in longing, it will open its gates to you. And you will not just read it,